Good morning. How are you today? It's still just a little bit before 9:45, but I wanted to make sure I could get on, and I am in the right place. Hopefully you can hear. So I'm happy to be with you today. I'm going to go ahead because I know that you can look at the replay. I missed Martinette's presentation this morning. I did see her end product, saw the very end, but you can bet I'll be going back to see how to make that box. That looks so cute on there. I did get to FaceTime with my little granddaughters and see how they are on this Saturday morning. Little Hazel had her 2-month checkup. Hi, ladies. Had her 2-month checkup, and so she had shots yesterday, and she is doing fine. And little Sagan, who has always been very attached to her pacifier and has for the last while only used it when she was going to take a nap or go to sleep, has now discarded it for good. So those are their highlights of the morning. Okay, so today we are going to be using some things out of course, our catalog, and we'll be using on page 29 the Pansy Petals. Hi, everybody, and we'll be using the dies and the paper. We're not really going to be using the stamp set so much. I haven't gotten into the stamping of that one so much. That's one of my next things to do. We're also going to be using the basic border dies. This could be something that you have overlooked because it's a standalone die set. Let me bring it in. It's a standalone die set. Here's a sample on page 59, and then to see the whole thing, you're going to have to go to 162. So it's here, and I can show you, I've cut all of the borders so you can see what they look like. This is the first one here, just a zigzag. And then this is this next one and what it would look like. This next one, here it is just cut out. And then I did use it on another card to help me make clouds. So it's very good for that. And then this is the one that they, let's see if I can find it. Nope. Looking for the one, here it is. This is the one down here that shows what the sample that I showed you on the other page. This is the cut here, and this is the cut here. So we're going to be using this little zigzag up here at the top. But I didn't want you to miss those because they're going to be, I think, a popular thing if you might have missed it in the catalog. And then we're also going to be using on page 98 the Color and Contours stamp set. We're just going to use one stamp, this one, and then the dies. And I don't know how anybody's going to live without those dies. You just have to have them. So I had on my blog post on Thursday this card, and so I thought this was a very easy fold, and I will just talk about how to do it, and we're going to be making this card today with it. So first of all, our base is going to be soft succulent, and I'm going to cut this. It's already at 4 1/4, and I'm going to cut it down to 10, which sounds a little weird, but it's got that opening on it, so I'm going to cut it down to 10, and then I'm going to move down my cutter and get my score tool. We're going to score that at 2 1/4 from each end. It's just easier to say that sometimes than to figure out the exact thing. So there's that. And I will bring in my bone folder. I have a fear today that I have forgotten something, so hopefully it doesn't happen. So I'm going to use my bone folder and just fold both of those toward the inside. And you can see how easy this fold is. So I have some of the designer paper, and this is from the Pansy Petals, and I cut the two pieces to fit our pieces here. Actually, one is too big, I see. So we will, oh, here it is. I guess I just had an extra piece I threw in there. So I'm just going to glue these. These are 4 1/4 by 2 1/4. So I'm just going to bring out my glue. Yay, it works. I forgot to check it ahead of time. Okay, so I'll put one up here at the top. And I'm just going to put that right smack up next to the fold. I may end up having to trim that a little bit. And then the other one will go down here. Now, if you have a directionality to your paper, you want to pay attention to that. Let me show you why. This is the card that I just showed you. And I have my paper going in the same direction, but when I added this piece, I did it to the wrong end, and it was too late to take it off. So my flowers are really going down. They should be going up. So I'm going to try to make sure that this goes in the same direction. It's good to see all of you today. I appreciate you coming on. Okay, so I do have a little bit sticking out here, but I'm not going to trim that because I'm getting ready to do some cutting. So I'm going to bring out this border, basic border die, and I'm going to cut, and I could have done this ahead of time, but I just wanted to talk to you about it for a minute. When I cut this, I want to make sure that I look at each side and kind of get it to be about the same where the zigzag is. Now, you don't have to do that, but I just think it's going to look better if you do. And then I'm going to hold this down with washi tape, and I'm putting it so the washi tape is out here instead of over the paper that I want to keep. So I'm going to go cut this real quick, and then we'll come back and do the other side. I'm not going to bring in the machine because you know how to cut. Okay, so I've got this one, and I'm just going to pull that off, and then we'll do this other one. And again, I want to think about where I had those cuts down here and try to make them about the same place on this next card or next end. Okay, so I think that about has it on each end and kind of like it is down here, and I'll cut that real quick. And that's really all there is to this fold. And to tell you the truth, you don't have to, that is cutting through two pieces of paper. You don't have to use a cutout on each end at all. You can leave it straight, of course. The next piece that I'm going to work on is this one, and it is, of course, cut with the contour dies. It's cut with this third one in right here. I think that's my favorite. I've used it on about everything. So I'm going to set the card aside for a few moments and we'll work on this. So I've cut out my parts, I hope, for the flower. And I'm just going to lay all of those out. And you know, there is some intricate cutting on this and gluing and that kind of thing. So for, let's see if I get that yellow one out. For this, I thought the gluing of these little extra pieces right here was a little bit tedious. And so what I did is I brought in my adhesive sheets and I added that to the back of my paper. Okay, so that comes in 12 sheets of 6 by 12, and it has these little pieces, little cuts right through here so you can pull a little bit easier, and the sticky is on this part that I'm pulling up. Okay, sometimes you can get that on your fingers, or maybe about all the time you can, but it's really a good thing for gluing those. So I'm going to put together the pansy, and I'm going to bring in my Take Your Pick tool, and I'll get some of the sticky off here. One of those seams was right down there. And then we'll work on this part. So it comes off pretty easy. And then I'm just going to try to sit that on the flower so that it will fit on there. Okay, so there we go with that. And then we'll work with each of these pieces. So I cut one of the bigger part of the flower and two of these for this particular flower. And probably a lot of you have already worked with the pansy. It's one of the best sellers. But I felt like the pansy was a little bit daunting at first because there are just so many parts to it. When I got it, I just kind of looked at it and didn't know if I wanted to pick it up again for a little bit because there were so many parts. So that's one of the reasons I thought I would go ahead and show it for those of you that maybe haven't picked it up yet or haven't ordered it yet. And I am going to bring in some glue dots to kind of put this back part together. So I'm going to kind of lean one over and just kind of play with it until I get it about where I want it. There. I'll just push that together. And then I cut two of these. The first one I cut, I did not put any of the adhesive on the back. And this is one that sometimes my glue gets a little heavy and I end up with a big mess. So I went back and put the adhesive, hoping that that would make it a little bit easier to get together. Okay, and then I started out with a yellow center, but I decided that the Blackberry Bliss would look better. And the colors that I'm using here are Fresh Freesia, Daffodil Delight, and Blackberry Bliss. And then my leaves are going to be Evening Evergreen. All right, so there we go. That was pretty easy. And I'm going to add a couple of leaves. And I think I'll just use glue dots for these as well. Just trying not to get glue everywhere. Oops, got one stuck to my fingers. There we go. And I'm just going to put one down in here and one over in here. And I'm going to add this to my, well, I've got a glue dot on my thumb. I'm going to add this to the card. I see I've got that moved a little bit from when I started. And I can still pick that up a little. Maybe not perfect, but anyway, there you go. So I'm going to put some dimensionals on the back of this. And just add this to my soft succulent rectangle. Yeah, Carol, I understand about being a little afraid to tackle it. I felt the same. Okay, I'm going to bring in some fresh freesia ribbon. These in color ribbons are just gorgeous. And I don't usually tie a bow on camera, but I'm going to attempt it. And I'm going to give you the hint that I do every time I tie a bow. Usually I use one of the bow tiers. But I'm going to get a glue dot and put that right under this first tie. And that holds that for me, so I don't have to worry about keeping it taut. So we'll see how this works. There, that's not too bad. Almost needed a little more ribbon. Okay, and then we'll get the scissors. Oops. These are not my ribbon scissors. There. So I'm going to now, I didn't put on the stem, and I had decided I wanted a stem on that, but I didn't really want to put that on dimensional. So I am going to try to add a little glue without getting it everywhere here. And I'm just going to kind of stick that under my ribbon and up like that. See, I did get it out over everything. Okay, so now I am going to add a few of the genial gems to that. Let me, ooh, there's some, let me get them open. Get some things out of the way here. And I think I'm going to do one down here and then a couple up here at the top is where I had it on the other one, so we'll just keep it there. All right, so now I want to add this to the base of the card, and I'm just going to kind of lay that and make sure it's where I want it to be. And notice you're only going to put adhesive on this top part because you don't want to stick it all together. So I'm just going to bring in some tear and tape. I think you could probably use maybe Seal Plus if you wanted to. And I'm just going to put 2 rows of that on there. Oops. And you want to try to get it straight. Not promising that I am. And we'll lay that on there. Okay. So there is that part. and we want to talk about the inside of the card. So I have a piece of basic white, and I have cut this 4 1/4, but this is only 5 3/8. So I want it to fit in. Actually, it's not cut correctly. And I don't have another piece of paper. Here's a little larger. Well, this one is going to just be the 4 1/4. I'll just sit it in here like this. But what I was going to say, and I don't know why I cut that incorrectly, is that you would want, what I wanted was for it to fill up the space, but you still want to be able to fold in your card. So I found that it worked best to have it about 5 3/8, except for when I cut this piece. So we're going to go ahead and just use this one that's 4 by 5 1/4. Not really what I wanted for the inside, but what I've got. Okay, and I'm going to use the Evening Evergreen, and then this stamp is from the Color and Contour, and like I said, I used this one because it was the shape that I needed it for it to be in the space that I had. So I'm going to make sure this is straight, and I'm just going to stamp it right through to where I want it to be. So hopefully it'll be straight. But it'll work. Okay, now I don't think I'm going to glue this in because I'm going to go and cut a piece that's the size I want it to be. So that is the card, and this is the other one that I had. Now I also wanted to show you a few other cards that I have made using the Pansy Petals. And you may have, some of you may have seen some of these before. I did this one on a Facebook Live this week, and for it, I used the square vellum doilies to help me to make some of the background back there. I used the dies. To drop everything. I used the die here for the stem, and then these two dies to help me get the flower buds on there. And then for the leaves on this, I cut out the leaf shape. Where is it? Well, I used these leaves, the leaf shape, and then I used this detailed leaf to fit on top of it. Now I also used the adhesive sheet on this more detailed piece to help that glue down a little bit easier. Okay, so something to think about there. On this, I also used that contour, scallop contour rectangle, but I cut it off a little bit shorter to use for the bottom of that. And then another card that I wanted to share is this one. It has the same layout as the first one, but I used the dies to cut the Designer Series paper, and I don't have that paper in with me, but this die right here and this one will cut out these flowers. So the larger one and the smaller one here are cut out from the paper, the Designer Series paper with the dies. This one right here was at the bottom of the paper, but I cut it out anyway, and I hid the bottom of it behind, hid it behind other flowers so you couldn't tell. So make good use of that paper. And then there's another sheet in the Designer Series paper that is all leaves, and these pieces will cut out the leaves from that paper. So it's really pretty neat. And I haven't used all of the dies, but that might give you a little bit of a heads up about what is there. Here is a paper that shows the regular leaf, and then I have the more detailed one done with the adhesive on the back. And we'll just put that together right quick while we're here. We have enough time. Well, maybe we will. There. So that can just fit over that leaf. It does make it a little bit bulky, but it does make it really pretty. I love those two colors together. So that is about all that I had for today. So let me bring back in the card that we made. Here are the other cards that I had to share with the Pansy group. Here's the card that I made. And I'd like to give out a shout out to a person named Kirsten Del Rosario. She is the person that in another group that I'm in presented a different card, but with this layout. And even though it's so easy, I had not really seen it. I had seen it with the window sheet, but just not like this. So I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you, Martinette, for getting this all together. I appreciate it so much. And hopefully we'll see you all next month. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.